Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 64 of the Atlas Annuity podcast. My name is Marty Becker. I'm the owner and founder of Atlas Financial Strategies in St. Louis, Missouri, where we specialize in safe money retirement strategies. So every once in a while, I kind of like to just poke around the internet and see what's being said about annuities. And I don't like to tear other people down or other content creators because this is not an easy thing to do and no one likes to be criticized, so that's never my intention. But when I come across information that is so egregiously wrong, I feel the necessity to set the record straight. What I did was I just went to YouTube and I just typed in annuities, and one of the first things that popped up was a guy by the name of Clark Howard. Now, I don't know anything about this guy. I've never heard of him, but from what I can tell, he's kind of like a Dave Ramsey type of educator that helps people with just general financial principles. So there's nothing wrong with that at all, but the problem begins when you start putting out content and half truths about a very deep subject that you're really not qualified to give advice on. So we're going to start with this video titled Why Annuities Stink. And if he thinks they suck, I wish he would just say why annuities suck. But this video has over 33,000 views, and we're going to walk through it and see if we can't point out some of the errors and set the record straight.
Annuities are hot right now. They are selling like crazy. And this always happens following a tumultuous time in the stock markets. People saw a decline that was stomach churning in both stocks and very rare. I mean, the last time it happened, was it 130 years ago that stocks and bonds both fell in concert at nearly equal rates? It's very, very rare. And people saw right before their eyes this money they'd worked hard to save, they had put in investments, that suddenly in 1 year's time, they may have lost, average person, 17% of what they had invested. And that set the table perfectly for annuity salespeople to come in and say, oh, we can take care of this for you. We've got this perfect product that will protect you on the downside, but you're also getting the upside of the stock market. But are you really? No. Okay, the way these things work, and again, the salespeople, we were sad, we were depressed, we were distressed, depending on your emotional level with investing. When the market cratered, the insurance industry was ecstatic because they knew it was going to be their next wave of using fear to drive the sale of garbage indexed annuities.
This video is about a year old at the time that I'm recording this, which is early 2025. I think he's referring to the market downturn of 2022. So let's just start with a couple things that he stated, that the fact that both stocks and bonds lost value at the same time. So the whole point of people owning bonds is because they are supposed to be the safe money alternative and not lose value. So when a financial product that was supposed to protect your money from losing value, then people are going to start looking for an alternative when the thing that was supposed to protect their money lost their money. And when he mentions that it set the table for the annuity industry, he was right, because annuities are a replacement for bonds. But yet he goes on to compare them to trying to get stock market type gains. Okay. And it doesn't work that way, because you cannot compare annuities and stocks. It's like comparing a Ferrari to an F-250 pickup truck. They're designed to do very different things, and they're completely different products to begin with. Stocks are equities, they're securities. Annuities are insurance products. So this is where I see people constantly trying to do an apples to orange comparison. There is no comparison because they're totally different financial products. And I got to be honest, I also resent the fact that he flat out says guys like me were ecstatic and took pleasure in the fact that people lost money in their retirement accounts. Okay, that's a horrible accusation. The whole reason I got into this business was because I lost my pension and I wanted to being a business where I could help people protect a portion of their money so they would have something to fall back on in this very situation that he's talking about. So I sell annuities when the stock market is doing great, and I sell annuities when the stock market is doing terrible. And in the 10 years I've been doing this, I've never received a message from some annuity mothership that said, oh, okay, the market's crashing. I'll go scare the shit out of people and try and sell some products. That doesn't happen. That's a terrible accusation. And okay, I'm sure there are some advisors out there that do sell on fear, but there's also an obvious difference between selling on fear versus pointing out the reality of the situation. And to this guy's own admission, the average person lost 17% of their money by the end of 2022. Let's watch a little more.
They don't use the word garbage in them. They may not even use the word annuity. That's a hot thing in the insurance industry, since the word annuity is looked at as a cuss word. Because so many people have been burned by them, they will call them something else, anything else other than telling you it's an annuity.
Okay, I always use the word annuity, so I don't know what he's talking about because I don't even know what else you would call it. And of course, he doesn't provide any examples of what those other terms may be. And the only reason the word annuity became somewhat congruent to a cuss word is because of guys like this who have been spreading false information about annuities in general.
So what happens with these annuities that supposedly promise you stock market returns with zero risk? Zero risk. You get upside, but you could never lose money. Okay, we would like that the world worked like that. It doesn't. So what they do is they cap the gain you get from the market. And in up years, the market gains can be really high in a year, but you only get part of that. You also don't get the dividends from stocks, which are a big part of what you earn over time.
So yes, he's right. You will only get a portion of the gains. That's the trade-off for downside protection. And the reason you only get a percentage of the gains is due to the fact that the annuity company is buying call options and there is a limit. So not only does he not mention that, but he fails to mention there are other crediting strategies besides cap rates, such as participation rates and spreads that could actually provide you with more than 100% of the returns of that particular index, depending on the volatility of said index. Again, which he conveniently leaves out. And he mentions you don't get the dividends. You don't get the dividends because you or the annuity company has not bought any stocks. So why would you get a dividend on something that you don't own?
The downside, they say, okay, so you're not going to lose anything, or the most you can lose is 5% or 10% or whatever, is you have to meet the contract language that could be 165 pages long. And you do anything or that the contract required, you miss something, you don't do everything exactly as required, you lose that downside protection. Plus,
okay, I'm going to stop again because he's already blending multiple types of annuities together when he says you're not going to lose anything, or you may lose 5 or 10%. So all of a sudden, he went from bashing fixed index annuities to talking about buffered annuities and variable annuities without making any type of distinctions. And there are huge differences between those types of products. And he goes into these 165-page disclosures. Now, an average disclosure statement, which is the portion of the application that has all the terms and agreements in it, is normally about 2 to 10 pages long, depending on the type of annuity. It's not until you get into the variable and the buffered annuities that those disclosures start becoming hundreds of pages long, which is one of the reasons I don't like variable and buffered annuities, because they were very complicated to understand, and you can 100% lose money inside of them.
you don't have access to the money. If there's some reason you need the money.
Stop again. Not true. Annuities have a built-in penalty-free withdrawal provision that allows you to access the interest or up to 10% of the account value. That's part of the deal.
Money, you get hit with massive unbelievable surrender charges. Surrender charges are where you pay a massive penalty to get access to your money.
Okay. I'm going to stop again because he said a lot of really stupid things in this short video, but this is probably the dumbest part here. Okay, so he's in that 13-second clip right there. He starts out with saying that if you surrender the annuity, that you're going to get, quote, hit with massive surrender charges. In reality, those surrender charges normally start at 10% and then decline every year that goes by in the term. And that's based on the money beyond your 10% penalty-free withdrawal. So a very high-level example is if you have a $100,000 annuity and you decide to break the contract, 10% will come out penalty-free, which would leave $90,000 subject to the surrender schedule. And let's say you're still at the highest percentage in that surrender charge schedule of 10%. You would get hit with 10% on 90,000, which would be 9,000, or 9% of the value of what you originally put into the annuity. Now, didn't he literally start the same video with saying the average person lost 17% of their portfolio in a market downturn? Isn't that a surrender charge if you have to get your money? Because if those people had to access money for income and they pulled out of an account that had already lost 17%, well, they pulled the money out, it's gone forever. They lost 17% on it. They're never, ever going to be able to rebound. So, wouldn't that count as a surrender charge? That's totally out of your control. So, with annuities, as long as you're working with someone competent, there should always be plenty of money outside of the annuity for emergencies if you need it. And you would only choose to pay those surrender charges if you desperately needed to. But those people who lost 17% didn't have a choice. It just happened. But, Marty, they made their money back within 2 years. Okay, they did for a couple of reasons. The government pumped $11 trillion into the economy, which caused rampant inflation. But let's go back to the year 2000, okay? Because most likely, if you can wait it out, your money will rebound in the market. But going back to the year 2000, those people lost about 40% of their money in a 3-year period. And it took over 10 years just to break even. Now, that wasn't a huge deal for people like me who were still working, but for those who had retired and needed the money to live on, do you think they would have been okay with getting a lower return and then having a safe bucket of money to dip into on just a portion of their money, knowing they could never go backwards in those bad years? Having a safe bucket that can never go backwards to dip into when the equity portion of their portfolio just took a dump. I think the growth of the annuity industry since the early 2000s proves at that point is yes, they are okay with it. So the thing is, things have been too good for too long, and people forget their history. And they forget how painful that was in the early 2000s and 2008. And they're forgetting that the sequence of returns risk is a real thing and is still very much alive today.
Why do they charge such a massive penalty? Because these annuities have massive commissions for the salesperson. And that's why the salesperson is pushing these, because they make the money. So the insurer, having paid these massive commissions, doesn't want to then lose money having paid the commissions, because you say, this was dumb, I'm getting out. So they charge you those.
Okay. Again, I totally take this as a personal insult. And this last part sums up that this guy really has no clue what he's talking about when it comes to annuities, because he went on to say the reason annuities have surrender charges is because of these massive commissions the advisors are getting paid. Now, I'm not sure what constitutes a massive commission in his head, because again, he gives absolutely no reference to anything he's saying, but the commissions are all over the place depending on the type of annuity and the length of the term. So for me personally, because I only sell the type of annuity that is appropriate for the client's needs at that particular time in their life, my average commission is about 4.5%. So some annuities pay 2.5%, some pay up to 8%. So that begs the question of, okay, why wouldn't I just recommend the annuities that pay me 8% all the time? Because I have to justify to the annuity company why I'm recommending this particular annuity to this particular client at this particular time in their life. And I have never once seen a box on the application that says I'm recommending this annuity because this one pays me a higher commission. Now, I'm sure there are annuity advisors out there who play these games. Okay. Unfortunately, yes, I'm sure there are. But those guys never last in the industry because your reputation can and will get tarnished very easily, and no one will do business with you. Okay. With the internet, there is no hiding anymore if you screw someone over. And yes, the longer the term of the annuity, the higher the commission. But I'm telling you, there really never is a reason to go past a 10-year term. Okay. So when I have someone contact me and they tell me they're in a 15-year surrender term, that's when I know they were probably working with an advisor that was looking for a higher commission. Okay. Because the benefits of a 15-year versus a 10-year annuity aren't that much better, but the commissions are higher the longer the term of the annuity. And another thing to keep in mind about these commissions is that they do not come out of the client's pocket on a fixed index annuity or a fixed interest annuity. There are some subcategories of variable annuities that have front load charges that the clients do pay for out of pocket, but the commissions are paid out of the annuity company's general fund. And what most people don't realize that if you change your mind in the first year, I have to pay my commission back to the annuity company. Okay. It's called a chargeback. So, do you think I want to put a client in a product that doesn't meet their needs, which would possibly cause them to change their mind at any point in the first several years of the term? Because all that's going to do is it's going to cause problems for them and it's going to cause problems for me too. And it's going to damage my reputation, not only as an advisor in the community, but with the annuity company themselves. If they start seeing a bunch of their policies are being surrendered because I made bad recommendations, they're not going to let me do business with them anymore. So why would I risk that? The real reason annuities have surrender charges is because when you send your premium to an annuity company, they're turning around and they're purchasing long term investment grade bonds to back up your annuity. And because that money is now in a bond investment portfolio, when someone comes back and says, I want all my money, the annuity company has to turn around and do a fire sale on their bonds, which will most likely incur a loss. The surrender value has very little to do with the commissions, and it's all in place to protect the annuity company from losing money on their end if someone just changes their mind. Okay. Because they have overhead, they have capital reserve expenses by setting up that annuity, and they will most likely incur investment losses if they have to go and liquidate that bond portfolio to give you your money back. Now, if you were to take a loan to purchase a house, but the lender came back at any time and said, hey, I want all my money back, would you agree to that contract? No, because you would say, hey, I just bought this asset. Now I'm going to have to sell it and possibly take a loss because you broke our agreement and you want all your money back right now. So I guess whatever I can sell the house for is what you'll get back because I'm not going to come out of my own pocket because you changed your mind. So why would the annuity company be any different? You're giving them money in exchange for a stated benefit, whether that's growth and protection or guaranteed interest or lifetime income, but a stated benefit in which they are making investments based on holding that money for a defined period of time. And if you change your mind, you're going to get the losses passed on to you. And honestly, that only seems fair. An early mentor of mine told me there are no deals in the insurance industry. Everything is based on math. And annuity companies are really good at math. So they want to provide a great benefit to their clients, but they also have to protect themselves and the interests of all of their other clients. Okay, so just one more point about the whole commissions things. It's because it is kind of irritating. and it comes up from time to time. But do you think the people that lost 17% of their money in the year he's talking about paid a management fee? And do you think the people that lost 40% of their money in the early 2000s paid a management fee? Yeah, they did. And do you think they paid that fee out of their own pocket? Yes, they did. And did they get a refund when their advisor lost 17 or 40% of their money? No, they did not. So anytime you buy a product or receive a service, someone is getting paid somewhere. Okay. That's the nature of the system. But with annuities, the advisor's commission never comes out of your pocket. So did this guy, Clark Howard, did he raise some relevant points about annuities in this particular video? I think he did, but there were also some major flaws in his analysis of annuities. This is something I see like Fisher Investments and other so called financial gurus doing on a regular basis. Okay. They take a kernel of truth and then they wrap it with layers of ignorance and misinformation. So the best part is really of this whole thing was just looking at the comments in the video because there's all kinds of people out there defending annuities. And it's not just advisors. These are people who actually own annuities and are very happy with them. And you have to go on to ask yourself, if all annuities were terrible, why have they been around for hundreds of years? Okay. They obviously serve a purpose in the right situation. So even though this video was filled with what I'm assuming very well meaning, but also very misleading information, there can be some pitfalls if you are placed in the wrong type of annuity. And this is why it's so important to work with an expert who actually understands how these things work and how to use them effectively. Now, if you're wondering if an annuity would be appropriate for you, then I would suggest starting by watching my video series, 20% More Spendable Income in Retirement. It's a 5-part video series that will give you a lot of insight on how annuities can improve your retirement if they are used correctly. And there will be a link to that video series in the show notes. And while you're on the website or in the YouTube page or on the podcast channel, check out the rest of the Atlas Annuity podcast episodes to find more educational videos and content on how annuities actually work. And everyone, I want to thank you for tuning in and taking the time to listen to this. I'm always trying to set the record straight and provide easy to understand information of what can be a complicated subject. And if you did find this information helpful, please like and subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Share it with someone that you think could benefit from it. And always feel free to get your questions answered by booking a short time at atlasannuity.com. And we'll have a short phone call and we'll see if the Atlas Annuity strategy is right for you. Everybody, again, this is Marty Becker coming to you with episode number 64 of the Atlas Annuity podcast. Thank you. I wish you all the best in your financial education. We'll catch you in the next episode.